Hi, welcome to Get Known, Be Seen WebTV. This is your channel where you will be able to find people who are experts, who will give you information on how to get known, be seen. And it's also where I have a lot of interesting people, authors, people who've just got new products and services who are coming on and sharing with you what they've got. And they're putting themselves out there to get known, be seen. I'm Trish Springsteen. I'm your host here, a creative business consultant, but most importantly, your host for Get Known, Be Seen Web TV. And it's my absolute delight to bring to you for this particular episode an awesome lady who is going to share some great information with you on how to leverage your strengths so you can be your best. Introducing Linda Lenord. Welcome, Linda.
And hi Trish, thank you.
Awesome. Let's find out a bit more about Linda before we have a conversation. Linda loves people, and I think that's awesome because I love people too. She works within both commercial and educational sectors as the director of At Full Strength. Love that name. Her world consists of working on organisational culture in a wide range of settings and working with individuals, showing them how to leverage their unique set of strengths, which is what I'm really going to be interested in hearing about. Through her own personal journey, from where she was in a role that saw her not working in her area of strength, that left her drained and unable to continue to work, she discovered the wonderful world of strengths. Following that time, she spent nearly the next 10 years learning more about herself and how to play to her strengths, which is really, really what we all need to be doing. To where she now works with people from all walks of life, showing them how to do the same. Linda is passionate about people's strengths, culture, and positive organisational change. How awesome to have you here, Linda. I'm really looking forward to hear about how you found your strengths and what you did. So let's start with there. Let's say a little bit about your journey so far and that where you took that time to find out your own strength. What did that do? How did you get there?
Well, I got there through a lot of pain, actually, and as all good stories usually start, I was in a role looking after a primary school, and whilst I could do some of that really well, a lot of it I found each day that I was just drained of energy at the end of it. So after 3 years of doing it, I was so drained of energy, I was actually very sick and had what you would probably describe as a major breakdown. And within a couple of days of that happening, I was sitting there watching an Oprah show of all things, as you do. And there was a guy on the show called Marcus Buckingham, and he was talking to a group of women similar age to me at the time. And they were all saying, look, I started off in a role that I really loved, and I got promoted, and I went and did different things. And now I'm doing a job I absolutely hate. I don't know what I don't think this is the thing I want to keep on doing, but I don't know what it is that I want to do. And he then started to explain about this world of strengths, that people often can be good at things, but they can get they're drained in doing it. And whilst on the outside people say, hey, you look like you can do this really well, on the inside people are going, I hate it. I have no energy. I loathe going to work every day. I don't want to do this anymore. But because they are actually achieving in the role, they believe that everybody else thinks they should still be there. So that really resonated with me, and I then went out and bought every book I could on strengths and read, and then I had the opportunity to train in New Zealand on becoming a strengths coach. So it just resonated with me. For me, I was in a job of high responsibility, and one of my strengths, well, there is a strength called responsibility, for instance, and it was quite low for me, and that made me understand why I felt sick having that responsibility, because I just didn't have the energy to take it on. So I learned very quickly that I like to do things that are quite responsible. People have always given me responsibilities, but I learned that I just didn't like that position of responsibility. So it was a real eye-opener for me. So from there on, I was able to return to the school, and I had the most amazing boss who allowed me to develop a position, an executive position around my strengths. And it ended up being a position called Culture, Innovation and Development. My top strength is it's called ideation, but I just love ideas and I love being creative. So for me, that position worked really well. So that's kind of a nutshell on the journey of how strengths worked for me.
Awesome. And so going from there, you've now opened your own business, which is At Full Strength. Love that name. What is it that you're looking and your hopes and your plans? Where's your vision with At Full Strength? Who you're working with?
I have two streams, and the first stream is working with just individual people that kind of go, I am in this position. I want to know more about how I can do it better. I want to know more about, I'm in a position of leadership and people aren't getting me in this position of leadership. How can I help people to understand the way I do things, how I do things best? Young people who are at the beginning of their careers wanting to know their next steps. People who are in mid-career going, I now need to change something. What I find interesting is, I think the current statistics are out for young people, say at school, they'll change careers about 15 times. So in their lifespan, and nobody's given us a roadmap for how to do that. So that's the sort of person I really love working with. So that's at an individual level. And then my other passion is working with teams, especially executive teams. They're the most important team within an organisation, not because they get paid the big dollars, but their decisions impact everybody. So if they're not working together well, if they're not making the best choices, if the right people aren't in the right spaces, then it's impacting a whole organisation. So working with teams is the other passion that I have.
Awesome. Awesome. Love it. Love it. I wanted to delve into, you went to New Zealand to become a strength coach. Can you just share a little bit, what pulled you there and what did you bring out of that? I'm interested to hear what a strength coach does. Yes. Where you focus on it.
So when I was training, my focus on strengths is through the strengths that are outlined by the Gallup Corporation. I don't know if you're aware of Gallup. Gallup is a big organisation in America. I have offices here in Sydney as well. And at that time when I was wanting to train, Gallup still had this kind of training only in-house, and except for over in New Zealand. And I was able to connect with this organisation and a lovely lady called Tessa, who had brought the training to New Zealand. And I got to train during the period just before and after the Christchurch earthquake. So that was quite amazing to be in the country around that time. It was quite moving and quite impacting. So that's why I was in New Zealand. And since then, Gallup has brought the training out to the public, so anybody can do the training and get trained as a strengths coach. So,
awesome.
So that's why I ended up in New Zealand.
No, I love it.
I love New Zealand. It's a beautiful country.
It is a beautiful country. I've only been round it in a cruise ship, which are probably cruise ships.
Well, you did it before they.
A long time ago, nowhere near what we've got now.
That's right. Oh dear.
But yeah, love New Zealand. It's a beautiful area. Well, I just want to delve a little bit into how do you help an individual find their strength? Because I love the corporate, and there'll be a lot of corporate people who do watch my show. But I want to sort of delve into the individual side, because while we're talking about getting known, being seen, whether it's in a corporate area as a team leader, or because you need to be known, be seen in the corporate area. If you want to climb the corporate ladder, you've got to be known, be seen, to be confident in what you're doing. And
yes, true.
Awesome. I just want to look at, for those who may be just individuals, business owners, entrepreneurs, what would be the way that you would look to focus in to help people leverage their strengths to be known, be seen? Where would you start? What's some tips that you could give?
So the first, there are several ways you can find out what your strengths are. People know what their strengths are, they just don't have words around them. So when you talk to somebody about their strengths and you give them a language around it, you get lots of, yes, how did you know that? That's me. I didn't think anybody else knew that about me. And there's all that kind of response that you get because the person knows themselves best. But nobody's taught the person the language to put to it. Especially in Australia, you know, the tall poppy syndrome, we don't talk about what's right with us. We're not encouraged to. We're taught to become a well-rounded person, not, which kind of, to me, breeds mediocrity. In strengths philosophy, I suppose you could say, that you grow your strengths because that's where you're going to grow most, and you manage around your weaknesses. And you work alongside other people who have their strengths, and you bring all your strengths together, which builds a well-rounded team. How you find out about it, there's the organic way to start with, and that's simply going, what energizes me and what drains me. And you can spend a week or two writing down on a piece of paper, divide the piece of paper in half and go write down all the different ways you are energized, the things when you're doing your work or life in general, and what drains you. And that will certainly give you an idea about the sorts of things that you have strength in. A much better way, I would argue, and this is the way I use, is to use the Gallup's Clifton Strengths Finder assessment. So that's an online tool that people can purchase a code to. You do an 40-minute online assessment, and you'll get given back either 5 top strengths, or if you pay a little bit more, you get your full list of 34 strengths in order. That's those 34 strengths, the words to that name your strengths. So that helps, that straight away gives you a language. What I strongly recommend is sitting down with somebody trained in it to actually then unpack and help you understand what those particular words mean for you. You and I may, for instance, share a strength called strategic, but your strategic is going to be different to my strategic strength because you've got other strengths around it. So understanding how exactly your strategic strength works is in that conversation that's really helpful. And the first conversation is really the initial, hey, welcome to this new language. And then the more you use this language around other people and people you know, you can then start to explain how you are at your best. So for me, if you put me into a situation where it's new, there's something that needs to be created, we need to work out a plan on how to do it, that's where you would put me. If you put me in a space where we need to keep a consistent approach and a disciplined approach, I'm going to be a nightmare. And I'm okay with that because somebody else is great at that, and that's where they're at their best. I'm at my best in this situation, and I can confidently explain that to people through this language. So that's using this online assessment tool, the Gallup Clifton Strengths Finder, as well as having the conversation, and it can be an ongoing conversation to develop through, depending on what you wish to work on as far as your own professional or personal development.
Awesome. You know what I took out? It was 34 strengths. I'm thinking, 34 strengths? That are a lot of different strengths. So we are really delving into some micro differences, aren't we?
Absolutely. And it is probably the best, instead of a lot of tools that profile will type a person, where this is a tool that says, no, you are so unique, but we can't have such a unique language that is only for you and a different unique language for somebody else. So there is a language around your uniqueness. And at the top of the list of that 34, say the first 10 to 12 strengths, they're like your everyday slippers, comfy as. It's, you know, you just use them all the time. And then for a bit further down in that middle chunk, they're like your going out shoes. They're comfortable enough, but when you'll take them off as soon as you get home because, you know, so you use more energy to use those types of strengths. Right down the bottom are the shoes that you bought, that you leave in your cupboard. You're still in your cupboard because you like them, you'd really like to use them, but you take them out occasionally, put them on and get blisters. So it takes a lot of energy to use those strengths that are down the bottom. So it's the same 34 strengths for each person, but the order is unique to you.
I love the fact that you've pulled out the uniqueness, because that's one of the things that I'm very passionate about, because, you know, when people come into business, they step up and they do write a book, or they step up and be in business. They're always worried about, they don't stand out and sing. And the problem is they need to.
Yes.
And then they say, well, how can I do that? Like, for example, I'm a speaker coach. There are a lot of speaker coaches and mentors out there, but they don't do it the way I do it. They don't bring my expertise and that. And so I say to people, why you need to get known, be seen, is do exactly what you're suggesting, is to own your strengths and own your uniqueness and shout it out so that you do stand out from someone else. Yeah. And I think I like the way that you've gone through that, because when you know your strengths, then you know the highlight and how to highlight your unique strengths. So that's what you work with people to do.
Yes. Yeah. What's right? There's not a wrong. There is stuff that you don't do well, or it's not your area of strength. Simply, that's what it is. Sometimes your strengths, what you're really good at, can get you into trouble. So my number one strength is ideation. It's called ideation, lots of ideas. I have ideas all the time. And I had to learn to say, this is an idea, but not every idea is a good idea. Because not every idea I have is a good idea. And I had to explain that to people rather than convince they would listen to my ideas and think, man, that's what she wants to do again. Well, that doesn't seem right. And giving permission to be able to say, hey, are you really sure about that idea? You know, do you think that's going to work? And I'm okay with that. But I had to learn to give people permission to say, look, that idea is not going to work in reality.
And that's mindset. A lot of it is overcoming that mindset. And I love the fact that you brought up the tall poppy syndrome, because like it or not, in Australia, we have that tall poppy syndrome, which is don't stand out. And I'm all about saying, forget that, people. If you want to be able to have a business, your book, your product, you need to stand out when everybody else is trying to sell that book and that product, and you need to be able to do that. I like, I call it bright, shiny objects, Linda. I get distracted by bright, shiny objects, which are ideas. Because I'll be doing something and, oh, that's a good way of doing it. And it's right. Not everything works, because I've got to go, oh. And one of the things that knowing your strength is, and I did a session on this about procrastination. That comes in very well with your strengths. If you don't know your strengths and you do procrastinate a lot, it's because you're not sure what to do.
Yes. And it's when you do come across a challenging situation, if you do know your strengths, you can sit down and look at them on a piece of paper and go, all right, which one of you characters, because they're like little people that hang out in your head, which one are you going to come with me and work as a team to solve this challenge? And which ones are not the right ones to come with me? Which ones are just going to wait out this one, because you actually could get me in more trouble than actually helping me. So just, you stay back, and you talk about turning the volume up on certain strengths and turning the volume down. And learning how to do that, and then being so intentional and explicit about how you're going to approach something gives you confidence, because it is a strength of yours. It's natural to you. So a definition for a strength is your natural pattern of thinking, feeling, and doing. So it's easy. And once you know what they are, put a word to it and put an understanding or a definition and notice how you use it, then it's easy to aim it, I suppose you could say.
And that will take away a lot of the fear, because I do a lot with people with fear of speaking, fear of standing out, and fear of success, and fear of knowing your own strengths. Because if you don't know what you are and how you are, you don't know, you're afraid to move forward. So what you're talking about is discovering exactly who you are, and when that happens, it empowers you.
Yes, it's the how of you. And once you can aim that how, and it feels right because it's your natural way, then you have a lot of power in that. So yeah, I find it's one of the most useful tools, because it's what can I do with knowing this information, and you can aim it. So I had a person that had to go into a meeting that was quite challenging and actually dismiss somebody. And we were having the strengths conversation prior, and we sort of said, well, how can you do this well? This is an awful thing to have to go and do. What strengths are you going to take in there to do it with integrity and do it right? And what strengths could get in the way that you're going to kind of leave out for this one? And even sitting down and writing down through and planning that out is a tool that you use in all sorts of situations.
Brilliant. So what has been your biggest challenge on your journey so far? Your strengths, discovering them, where you're going. What's been your biggest challenge?
The biggest challenge is just stepping up and using them. I've known them. I've known leaving employment, leaving a long-term job, and then stepping out into business at full strength, is actually releasing them fully. That's been the challenge, and getting rid of that mindset that go, yes, but I'm not like, and kind of get a face full of yourself and going, you know what, this is what you talk about. You better get out there and do it yourself, and kind of playing in them and learning how to really play with them. And even with this, time in pandemic, to go, wow, what a time to start a business. But, hey, go use strengths, go do the things that you do well, and let the rest happen. So that's been a challenge, but it's been a great challenge.
Oh, it is. I absolutely agree. That's one of the biggest challenges is actually owning who you are and then working with it. So we could talk for ages about strengths, because this really resonates with me, because it resonates with my viewers and the watchers, because no matter whether you're someone who's just starting on your journey and need to get known and be seen, or whether you're someone who is sharing your expertise, the strengths and knowing your strengths is going to take you to the next level and to really hone in on what you're doing. So what would be, just before we finish, I guess, what would be 2 top tips? We've talked a lot, but to say, pull out 2 top tips for people to step up, to use their strengths to step up and be seen.
The first one is to know them. So even if right from today, do that piece of paper and write down what energizes me, what drains me. Mm-hmm. And the idea there is to do more that energizes you and less that drains you. It's pretty simple. And the other one is to notice what people notice in you. Mm-hmm. So they will notice it 2 different ways. They'll either say you're really good at this, and don't do the, oh dear, shucks, that kind of, push it away. Notice it, listen to it, because they're noticing a strength. And also the other way that sometimes, unfortunately, people notice a strength is they say, you are too this. And whatever that this is, so, you are too competitive. How many children get that said to them? Or you talk too much. Take that and go, well, what's the positive of that? Flip it. Because that is a strength that they're noticing, and they're just not appreciating what it can do. So those would be the 2 things, just becoming aware of who you are and what you're actually doing.
I love that bit about owning it and making it into a strength, because I'm competitive. I don't play games, I compete.
Yeah, and it's a strength.
Doesn't matter whether it's Scrabble or card games. Yeah. To me, if you're going to do all out, you need to do all out to win. And then you need to also have the graciousness to understand how to lose.
That's maturity of a strength.
Yeah.
The drive to compete can be incredible. Can I tell a quick story about a lady with competition? Yeah. So there was a lady who had English as a second language, who worked the graveyard shift in over in one of those big stores in the United States. So what do they call them? Not Kmart, but
Walmart?
The other big one. Walmart? Yeah, a Walmart store. And they used to have a competition every month to sell a certain product, the most of it. So she had English as a second language. She worked the graveyard shift in the, from late night to the early morning, but she kept on winning this competition. And the reason why was that they kept on keeping it, they kept score on how people were going. And she had this strength of competition. So she just looked at the score and aimed to do better, to win. And that's how she was doing it. Everything else said about that there was no way that a person in that situation could win that competition. But because of this strength of competition, she was able to do it.
Yeah, and I think we should all compete, and we can compete with ourselves.
Yes.
You don't have to compete with others. You can compete with yourself in healthy moderation, because then a strength can become a weakness if you go over.
That's correct. It becomes a liability. Yeah. And so if it's about maturing it and understanding the ins and outs of all it can do, that you can then have credibility in how you use it.
Awesome. As I said, we could talk for hours on this. I love it. But before we go, you have a free gift, but for my viewers, what can they do to get that free gift, and what is it?
So if you really enjoyed this chat and would like to have a chat about strengths with me, it's just a free discovery chat to chat more, ask questions, what is it all about. The best place to find me at the moment is on Facebook. So my Facebook site is at Full Strength, and there's just a button, book now, free strengths discovery chat. So love to, like you, I could talk all day about this.
Awesome. Look, viewers, if you're watching this, when you're watching this, just look, do that. Have a little time, delve into your strengths, because knowing your strengths is knowing how you can get known, be seen, and I think it's extremely pertinent to people who are on their journey. So how can people contact you if they do want to go a bit further?
Probably still through the Facebook page. So there is an opportunity to get the Gallup Clifton Strengths Code and have a strengths-based coaching session, right through to a product called the 12 Steps to Strengths-Based Leadership. So anything and everything, but yeah, let's just have a chat first to see what it is that you would suit you best.
Awesome. And you're also on Instagram and LinkedIn.
Yes. Yes, and yes, you can contact me any of those spaces, and that would be great.
And people, you'll see the links below here with this video. So when you're watching the video, you can go down below, have a look, and look at those links there. Oh, Linda, thank you so much for being with us in this particular session and for pulling that curtain aside a little bit on our strengths, something that has been in our subconscious probably, but we've never really acknowledged. And I love the fact that that's what you do. You get us to bring up our strengths and look at them full on, acknowledge them and see them. Because unless we do that, unless we know exactly who we are not operating at full steam. We can't be enjoying the full potential of who we are to go through. And especially from my perspective, because as I'm passionate about you speaking, and passionate about you stepping up, and passionate about you getting known, being seen, and along with that is knowing those strengths. So thank you, Linda, for sharing that with us today.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciated it.
People, I'm Trish Springsteen, a creative business consultant. I'm Australia's leading expert in empowering introverts. I'm a multi-international award-winning mentor, international award-winning best-selling author, currently 16 books. But most specifically, I absolutely enjoy bringing here as the host of Get Known, Be Seen WebTV. If you'd like to have a conversation with me, would like me to speak on your stages or MC any of your events, my links and contact are below as well. Just have a conversation with me. If you'd like to be a guest on my show, you can see me on Facebook, you can PM me or email me. My links are there. And don't forget, if you want to make sure that you do not miss an episode of Get Known, Be Seen Web TV, there is a lovely subscribe button on the channel. Make sure you press that subscribe button, because that will give you notification every time a new show goes up. Thank you for watching. Be awesome. Find out those strengths, but most importantly, own them and use them to get known, be seen. Until next time, bye.
Thank you.